everybody. Welcome back, Yacht Club. Thanks for watching. Very happy to be here. It's August. It's time to start thinking about fantasy football. Now, celebrity producers, Dave Piper, Dave Hewitt, spokespeople for the millennial generation, told me that top 7 lists, very, very popular among the kids these days, and I'm going to trust them, and therefore, I'm going to give you my list of the top 7 fantasy quarterbacks for 2019, the order in which I rank them. Let's get after it. Well, the top spot has to be Patrick Mahomes of the Chiefs, possessor of an incredible arm, awesome mobility, improvisational brilliance. Not a big argument here. I think the only real question is how high he should go in drafts overall, and that is going to be a theme in this show. In a single quarterback league, if Mahomes is going in the 2nd or 3rd round, too rich for my blood. Very good player in an explosive offense. He doesn't honestly always make the right decision or hit what he's aiming at, but more importantly, 50 touchdowns, just really not likely to recur. He had 9 touchdown passes from inside the 3-yard line last year. That is a hard thing to replicate year over year. Now, after his 55 touchdown season, Peyton Manning was great again and only threw for 39 only. It's a historical anomaly to throw 50 touchdowns. It's over 3 a game. Turn just a few of those into rushing scores. I mean, you still might be talking about the QB1. You're just probably not seeing such a massive fantasy point lead over everyone else. Mahomes is legit. I did an experts draft recently where everyone was waiting on quarterback. I got him in the 5th round. I cackled. But most importantly, here comes the theme. You can get a representative percentage of Mahomes' production at a fraction of the cost. A quick break to say thank you to BetDSI for sponsoring the show today. It's the online sportsbook where I play. I've had an account there for 4 years now. It just works. I don't have to think about it. I think that's the most important thing you can say about an online sportsbook is it just works. You hear me talk about it on the podcast. I play a fair amount. The NFL season is coming up quick, and they've got season win totals for us. They've got prop bets like who the MVP might be and other stuff, and also just a lot of other sports. So I've got 2 promo codes for you. If you're a regular player, use Harris Tube, and they'll match your deposit up to $500, 100% matching. If you're less frequent, if you want to dip your toe in the water, use the promo code Harris5. They'll match 5% of your deposit, give you a little bit more liquidity. We thank BetDSI very much for sponsoring today. Okay, getting back to our countdown of fantasy football's top 7 quarterbacks 2019, Aaron Rodgers at number 2. Maybe there's a buying opportunity here. Maybe folks in your league are down on Rodgers. He got hurt in week 1 last year. By the end of 2018, he was the QB6. It was kind of a rocky ride. He's still great, and I think he's still pretty near the height of his powers. Nobody has Rodgers' combination of arm power, accuracy, improvisation, feel. He's great. And yet the bloom perceptually may be off his rose just a little bit. The flaws I've been talking about for years with Aaron Rodgers, now kind of part of the common narrative. Extending plays, he's great at it. Maybe better than any quarterback in NFL history. But he freelances and he sometimes misses open receivers. And when he has to rely on a really young receiving core, he can get frustrated, he can get sacked. Too much holding the ball, too many sacks. It's going to be part of the deal if you draft Rodgers, but the rewards are crazy. That comeback week 6 against the 49ers, that final drive, 2 impossibly clutch sideline throws to set up a winning field goal against defenders who know he has to hit the deep out with no timeouts left. Dude had an NFL record streak of 402 passes without a pick last year, and he is not dinking and dunking to get that together. He is rock solid great. At number 3, I have Andrew Luck. Now I feel vindicated. I had him at number 8 to begin 2018, and people yelled at me and thought I was crazy. Didn't I realize he hadn't played in a full season? And then when things were statistically slow in his first 3 games of 2018, I got a lot of I told you so's. But what I saw on film was he was still making nearly all the throws. He showed probably like a B+ arm, which is plenty good enough. And in the end, it was going to come down to the Colts playing better overall on offense, which they started to. And Luck nearly throws for 4,600 yards. The Colts tied for the most pass attempts thrown into the end zone. They were 3rd in red zone attempts. Trends that can turn south year over year. That wouldn't be the main reason, but given Luck's accuracy, I don't necessarily think they have to go down. In 2018, Luck's mistakes honestly sometimes look like Rodgers' mistakes, holding the ball too long, including a terrible Week 17 pick six against the Titans that could have crushed the Colts' playoff hopes. And in the playoff loss against the Chiefs, in the cold and the wind, he had easy second half interceptions dropped by defenders. Again, you don't have to pay an extreme price for any quarterback. Single QB league, I'm not spending a fourth round pick on Andrew Luck, or probably any quarterback, because there are so many other good options and so many better values, but White Shrek, as I like to call him, is a great player. For my QB4, I have Deshaun Watson of the Texans, the first entry on my list, who's here primarily because of his legs. He's an astonishing runner, certainly one of the 2 or 3 best currently at quarterback. Coming off the torn ACL in 2017, I thought by the end of the year, Watson had shown that he can put tacklers in the torture chamber with acceleration, with long speed. If he stays healthy, hard to think he's not going to get you 600 plus rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, which gives him a leg up. And of the rushing quarterbacks, Watson's the one, well, maybe with one exception who's about to come on this list, I trust as a passer the most. Watson has a strong arm. He has a willingness to take shots. He's got DeAndre Hopkins and Hopkins' phenomenal hands to throw to. Like the other guys before him, like all the quarterbacks in the league, there are flaws. I mean, Week 7 last year, after Week 7, Watson was the QB 13. He was probably relying too much on athleticism, and he was making mistakes. Too much hero ball. Plus, the Texans' offensive line stunk last year. He got sacked 62 times, the most in the league in nearly 15 years. But once he was healthy, once he was fully back, his legs did their thing. I mean, I'm reiterating, in most 12-team single quarterback leagues, you really don't need to reach for the top guys on my list, but Watson belongs in top 5 consideration for sure. At number 5, Russell Wilson in Seattle, the other running quarterback I was talking about. Absolutely true that Wilson handed it off more than any quarterback in the league last year and ran it a little bit less himself, but he still threw the deadliest deep ball in the entire NFL. I grade Wilson's arm strength out as an A, which is great, even if maybe a little bit behind Mahomes and Rodgers, but nobody throws the deep bomb like Wilson does. That's how a quarterback can fail to reach 3,500 yards passing and still wind up with 35 passing touchdowns. And by the way, that makes 3 out of the past 4 seasons when he's thrown for at least 34 touchdowns. And the other season, he was wrecked by a high ankle sprain. We're not going to see classic field reads. We're not going to see great pocket patience out of Wilson. He does run a little bit hot and cold. He can blow the occasional throw. But all the folks out there who want to give me Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson, all having this crazy upside. I mean, that upside is already there with Wilson. The last 4 years combined, he leads all QBs with 38 touchdowns that traveled 20-plus yards in the air. I'm not worried about a slight tilt toward the ground game. I'm not worried about a supposed lack of receiving weapons. That stuff to me matters most at the margins. I think to argue against Russell Wilson is to proclaim that whatever workload or surrounding cast constraints you're worried about are going to cause the touchdowns to slip, and because of the deep ball, I really don't believe that it will. At number 6, let's go old guy, Drew Brees, his age 40 season. I have a feeling my number 7 is going to make you real mad too. So let's start with this old guy first. And you know what's funny about Brees is how much he illustrates that conventional wisdom on a player's draft value is so driven by the past year's stats. Last year, coming off 2017, where he only threw for 23 touchdowns, all we got was, well, the Saints are moving away from Drew Brees as the focal point of their offense. They want to score touchdowns on the ground. But no, that's not how it works if the guy's still playing well. You just have that season sometimes. Brees threw for 32 last year, touchdowns, in only 15 games, looked like himself, probably the most accurate thrower in the entire league. We all know Brees' limitations. He doesn't have the arm anymore. I grade his arm strength out as a C. I don't know. It just doesn't matter that much. The entire New Orleans offense is built around Brees' precision. He hits that back foot, and the thing is gone. The reason the Saints offense works against whatever scheme you want to throw at him is There's always going to be a tight window that Brees can pass into. He almost always does it perfectly. He's just as solid a bet as there is to go 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and good night. And here we are at number 7, and let's finish it out with a bang that will no doubt get me roasted in the comments as somebody who does not know what he's talking about. Tom Brady, QB7. Listen, I understand completely. This is wildly out of step with where the market is. I watch film on every single player all spring and summer. I lock myself in a room. I promise, I watched. I don't think Tom Brady is done. I get it. He was only QB 14 last year. He's got cement blocks for cleats. Why shouldn't we invest in someone with a weekly floor that includes, I don't know, actual leg movement? No Gronk. No other proven receivers other than Edelman. A running game that was great in the playoffs. Doesn't Brady have too many question marks to even be a fantasy starter, let alone QB7? Okay, look. He's 2 years removed from being the MVP of the entire league. He was the obvious consensus number 2 quarterback in fantasy drafts last summer. He threw for 4,300 yards perfectly fine. 29 touchdowns is on the low side. 11 interceptions, way too many for someone like Brady. But 6 of those 11 interceptions were tipped or flat out handed to defenders by a receiver. Pat Mahomes had 4 interceptions dropped by opposing defenders. Brady only had 1. He was the QB 14, yes, but he was less than 5 fantasy points away from QB 9. You say the Pats are too run-focused. I say they finished top 5 in red zone pass attempts. Like Brees after 2017, I think people are getting carried away by the numbers and by the narrative. You know, you might be saying, what about Baker Mayfield? What about Cam Newton, Kyler Murray, Jared Goff? Don't they have more upside than Brady? I kind of don't think so. Brady was the QB3 2 seasons ago. Are we arguing that at age 42 he's completely cooked? Well, okay, it does happen. Brett Favre was the QB10 the season he wound up being completely cooked. It did end badly. But if you're not arguing that Tom Brady is cooked, then I don't know why he can't bounce back. And I am 100% cool with waiting and waiting and waiting at quarterback and grabbing Brady in the double-digit rounds to be your fantasy starter. And if it doesn't work out in those first couple of weeks, if I'm wrong, if the decline has begun, if they're so run-focused that he can't be a fantasy factor, I imagine that there will be solutions on your waiver wire that'll be just fine. Maybe the larger point I want to drive home here, though, is that even if you don't believe me on Brady, and I have a feeling in the comments you're going to indicate that you do not, it's still a viable strategy, and it's still, in a single quarterback league, the strategy that I would pursue. Wait on quarterback, don't pay for the elites. You'll find someone pretty close to elite and load up at those scarcer positions in those upper and middle rounds, running back and wide receiver. Thank you so much for watching. It's great to be back. You might want to check out the Harris Football Player Profile Almanac for 2019. It's got 200 plus pages of previews. It's pretty fun reading, and lots of film review as well. You can check out a link in the show notes below me. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button. Write a comment. Tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on. And of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button, and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.